nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary tonight. All members present. Dave via Zoom. No, Jennifer's absent. Oh, and Jennifer's absent. Excused.
All right, board correspondent report.
Okay, since there's really not that much going on in Madison, because, I think they're on recess, right? So there's really not much going on. So, I'm gonna talk a little bit, because usually the report ends up being about finance. So I'm gonna just give a little synopsis of what I learned at the convention, because I went to most of the sessions that were on finance, because I'm on the finance committee. So, first of all, I don't think people realize this, and if you got your property tax bill, you would probably not agree with that this year, but the Wisconsin state and local tax burden fell in 2022 to its lowest in half a century. I got my tax bill, I would have said, I don't agree with that, but that's what they're saying. With that said, the projected budget is 6.9, surplus for this year is 6.9 billion, and the regular rainy day fund is 1.7 for a total 8.6 billion the state has.
8.6
billion dollars, yes. The irony in that is that Wisconsin has, we used to be at the top of the pack for school spending per student, now we're in the middle. In matter of fact, per the 2020 census, Wisconsin's spending of $12,740 per student on public and elementary education was 25th in the nation and 5.6 below, or 26, and 25.6 below the average, 5.6 below the average.
And
No.
we don't get the 12,000.
And we don't even get the 12,000. If you look at these maps that I gave everybody, look, everybody in red, they're spending they get less than $12,000 per student revenue.
A lot of revenue.
And then it goes up to 10 to 10.5, 10.5 to 11, 11 to 11.5, 11.5 to 12, and 12 and over. So you can see most of the state is in the same predicament as what we are. Our neighbors to the north, they're doing okay. But most of the state is in that same it's that same financial picture. If you look at if you flip it over, and then it talks about special ed. Okay, and then 1,500 and under 1,000, or 1,500 to 1,999 and 2,000 and over. If you look, most districts in the state are still getting the bare minimum. I should notice here that this 12,000 and over per student, that can be 12,000, or that can be anywhere from 12,000 to 20,000. Some districts get. So that's kind of an inequality in funding. So.
Well, and not to interrupt you, because you're probably just about to say this.
Go ahead. We were at the same session.
Yeah, but this whole map has been because in 1994, they put a revenue cap on all of the districts based on 1993 spending.
Which was only supposed to last for 5 years.
Right.
And here we are, 30 years later, and we're still, hampered with this, or, with this funding formula scenario. The Wisconsin Constitution says, it calls for the establishment of district schools which shall be as nearly uniform as practicable. Okay, so are our schools uniform? There's unequal property wealth, there's unequal concentration of students, and the payments don't equalize the wealth, because some get 12,000 over, we get less than 10. And they talked about it there, and they said the legislatures don't want to talk about charter schools or the voucher program. That's off the table. They're not even willing to listen. But they are willing to, some of them are coming around about the revenue limits and special ed funding. So I found that kind of encouraging. There's the Wisconsin education, they've got a lawsuit.
Oh, the tax
Equity and funding, they've got a lawsuit against the state because of the unequal, inequity in the funding. And some of them in Madison are a little upset that they're being sued, but some of them are coming around and saying, you know, it's about time we need to fix this. So that would be, they could, you know, those guys could maybe convince the other ones, that would be great. What else do I have here? Okay, he did talk a little bit about, there's 39 states, he mentioned weighted education funding. So, you know, I went to Google that, and so I understood, so I could understand what it was. 39 states do that. It's a formula allocating funds based on student characteristics at the school, and it's designed to replace, you know, the traditional budgeting process, which allocates resources on the number of students, and not the type. So basically, it gives a base amount of funding for each student, and then additional funds are then provided for students who need additional services like special ed, disabled, English language learners, low income. So 39 states do that, so maybe we could, hopefully the state will now maybe look at, maybe they got their eyes opened a little bit and they're coming around. He did say that all these schools here that, you know, are in the top, they don't want to lose any money in this new funding formula. They don't want to lose any money. And I understand that. You don't want to lose any money. But all these schools in the red are losing money. So.
And that's why there's so many schools that are going for referendum. Just to cover the costs.
Yeah.
Well, the state is sitting on
billions
because they haven't done.
He said it's going to be interesting to see what they say about this year's budget because they can't really use that, well, the state has no money. Because the state has money. Am I allocating for spending it all? Oh my heaven's sakes, no, because you need to have, you know, a cushion. But it's time to open up the coffers a little bit. Yeah. So that's my report.
Okay. Any comments for? All right, we'll move on. Board CISA report, Nick.
We covered a lot. The meeting was long because we had our annual goal setting meeting. But basically we just talked about the upcoming WSB convention. Colleen was very happy with the PAC meeting that was held at Lambeau, with the turnout that was there. The goal setting, we talked about, you know, where we want to be next year, where we come since she started, and you know where we would like to be. Talked about the strengths and weaknesses that we have, and basically how the year is going so far. So it's going in the right direction. So I keep in check with Casey to see how the the internship program is going, because that one I really want to keep an eye on. So so far so good.
Good. Questions for Mick? All right, moving on. Student representative report, Max.
So, excuse me, last week, me and I think 17 other people, we went to Denmark High School to participate in the Bama Honors Band. I think there was about seven different groups of schools, and it was like a one-day event where we all practiced the music that we were given, and it ended up going really well. I got to listen to it from my friend who also participated. She had gotten the audio recordings, and I thought we sounded pretty good. So that was really fun. Second semester has started, so and then I don't know if I said this before, but the food pantry, the food drive, whatever. We had finished that up. I had brought it up to Luxembourg. Sorry, no, Kiwani. I always get those mixed up. But I brought it up to Kiwani, and there was actually a really big turnout, and we had gotten a lot of food to donate, so that was really good. The honor roll is going out soon, where students will get letters for their grades. Shrek Cycle is also continuing. I think it's in February when the performance is, or it might be March, I'm not sure. And then for school sports, basketball is going on.
Right.
Thank you.
misconceptions and rumors. Health registration, did anybody sign in to speak?
Don't believe so, no.
All right, we'll keep going. Board president announcements. I'll just say briefly that, actually, a good percentage of us that were able to go to the convention went, along with Jesse, spent the last week in, Milwaukee, and as usual, we go to lots and lots of sessions and, glean lots of information and get some inspiration as well as some ideas and bring back, so at, some point we'll try and share that with some of the teachers and principals and different things. We try not to just get all sorts of great ideas and then come back and say, do all of this when you already have a full agenda, but it's always worthwhile, and it's also good networking where we can see what other districts are doing and sort of compare. And once again, I feel confident in saying that I feel that a lot of the sessions still are like trying to present these new ideas that we have been doing for years already. So we are definitely at the cutting edge and staying there, and feel very proud of what we're doing. And it's validated at the convention. All right, we'll move on to administrative reports.
Good evening, everyone. So just start us off, we have Amber Dewiski from CLA Audit. Amber is here to present on our annual audit that was completed in December, and you have that in your board packet. So she's going to go over both our district audit as well as our charter school audit. So I will turn it over to Amber.
Thank you. Again, Amber Jariski with CLA. Happy to be here. If you have any questions as we run through this, just interrupt me. So I'm going to start with the district audit. So that's the thicker bound copy that you would have received. On page 1, our independent auditors report. They did change. There were some new standards that were effective for this year. The GASB world has apparently a ton of time on their hands, so maybe they can try to help solve some of those state budget problems, because they have changed our audit reports and everything that we do. So they put your opinion right at the top though, so that's kind of nice. That was a good thing. So we've audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, each major fund, the aggregate remaining fund information of the school district of Algoma as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Right below that, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the district as of June 30th, 2022. That's a clean, unmodified opinion, the best opinion we can provide from an audit standpoint. Then goes in to talk about the basis for the opinion. Obviously, we don't look at every transaction of the district. We do a test-based, risk-based approach. Responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the presentation and preparation of the financial statements. Our responsibilities start on page 2. They made that quite lengthy, but primarily to issue an opinion on the financial statements in accordance with GAS and government auditing standards, which we have done. On page 6, so page 6 and I believe it goes, just page 7. Page 6 and 7 are our government-wide financial statements. This reflects everything of the district: your operating budget, your capital assets, any debt, your proportionate share in the Wisconsin retirement system, everything on a full accrual basis. So the total net position was about $16.6 million as of June 30th, 2022. About 9.6 of that is your investment in your capital, so a significant portion. Now, some of that also has to do with some of the Wisconsin retirement system, so some of that number's kind of, I'm going to say a fake number, but an important number, right? So the Wisconsin retirement system was in a net asset position again. That was about $2.1 million. We do restrict that total, but the net deferred inflows and outflows are not, and the difference of that's about $1 million. So there's a little bit of non-cash activity in these statements. So go to page 8 though. This is how you adopt your budget, your general fund, your referendum debt service, you have your Fund 46, and so forth. So these numbers are a little bit more relatable. we like to look at, obviously, what's your cash balance? You have about 3.8 million in your general fund as of June 30th, 2022. But more importantly, where does your fund balance fall as of June 30th? So your fund balance was about 4.3 million, about 4.2 of that being unassigned. That's what we attribute to the rainy day fund. And we want clients to be anywhere from 15% of your general fund expenditures to 30%, 35%, depending upon cash flow. What are the needs of the districts? Do you have a Fund 46? Do you have another capital project fund? If you don't, you probably want that rainy day fund to be a little bit more, because how are you saving for capital, one-time capital purchases that probably wouldn't go to a referendum type situation? So the district is currently at about 45% of your general fund expenditures. So a healthy fund balance there, which is good. You do have your Fund 46, and that total, I just wanna make sure I get the right total, you do have about 223,000 remaining in there. Some of that money was used within the last year or so. So that's a healthy fund balance there. And then you do have your food service, has about 312,000. Your donations, which is now a combination of your Fund 60 and Fund 21, of about 230,000. So a healthy fund balance there gives you some flexibility and some options. I like to talk to clients, keep in mind that you wanna look capital-wise. What's the ages of your buildings? What are some of those types of things that you're gonna have to do from a replacement standpoint, and how does that relate to where you're sitting from a fund balance perspective? Some places will use their Fund 46 to decrease the referendum dollars. Some of them will use one-time expenditures that you have set aside in your general fund. Just gives you options. So, and you have both of those options, so it's a good thing. Your general fund increased about 457,000 during 2022, the fiscal year 2022. And there is a budget to actual, both for the general fund alone and the special education fund, because those are combined, but there's individual budget to actuals on page 41 and page 42. And a lot of the increase in the fund balance of the general fund, your special ed transfer out was less than what you budgeted, and you had some cost savings in instruction and things like that. Some of that'll just depend on vacancies, what your operation and maintenance is, all those kinds of things. Then page 13, these are your fiduciary funds. So your employee benefit trust, you have 1.1 million in that fund as of June 30th, 2022. And your OPEB, as a result of your 1.1 million, your OPEB, your other post-employment benefit, was overfunded, so you had a net OPEB asset of about 500,000. So, which is good too. So, as point that has to happen, you do have the funding set aside for that as well. Any questions on those front pages?
Some of the federal funding that was indicated, would that include the ESSER funds that we're getting?
Yes.
That's part of why we are looking so rosy.
Well, that would have been, the revenue would have offset the expenses, so those should have, because that's expenditure based, you claim that based off of what your expenditures are, and then you're receiving the revenue, so those should offset. So it shouldn't have a total net impact on your bottom line, but there are some other funds. There's some of the Get Kids Ahead, I think it's called the CSF funds, some of the governor funds that came through. Those were not necessarily tied to expenditures, and so that does have an impact on your bottom line if you didn't quote unquote spend them. Some districts allocated those towards some salary costs and so forth, but they're not a one-for-one type item. So on page 55, so as part of the audit, we also review the internal controls. So on page 55, this is our independent auditor's report on internal control. We don't issue an opinion on the internal controls, but we would be required to disclose any findings or non-compliance. So we did have one significant deficiency, and that is preparation of the annual financial report. Pretty common for districts your size, which means we're preparing this document with the amount of disclosures and new standards. We did evaluate for GASB 87, which was applicable for fiscal year 2022. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a bit. But with all those disclosures, we prepare most of our clients' financial statements. So, no non-compliance noted. Page 58, because the district again received over $750,000 in federal funds, we are required to prepare and perform what we call a single audit, compliance audit. So we look at, we have risk-based approaches that we have to select certain programs for, and so we have major state and federal programs. And we issue an opinion on the top of page 58 there, and in our opinion, the school district of Algoma complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements of the OMB compliance supplement and the Wisconsin State Single Audit Guidelines. So a clean opinion there. Obviously, management's responsible for the compliance of those requirements. Again, we issue an opinion and they give lengthy information on page 59 for that. Then I'm gonna go to the stapled document that should have been in that same thick bound document. That first page is just your corrective action plan that gets submitted with your data collection form. But the stapled document, this is our executive summary, kind of summarizes everything I just touched on. But there's a few things that I'm required to communicate to governance, and that starts on page 2 of that document. So on kind of in the middle of page 2, we say that there's no new accounting policies adopted for fiscal year 2022. We did evaluate GASB 87, which is the least standard, but it was not deemed to be material to the financial statements. It was over the threshold that we have to disclose to you, so you will see on page 3 a past adjustment for that lease asset and liability, but it is not material to the financial statement, so we did not add in all of the additional disclosures and all of the additional asset and liability that would go with that. GASB 96 is going to be applicable for fiscal year 23. That is subscription-based softwares that will become material and will have to be recorded on the district's books. So that is a new standard that we're starting to work with and kind of fine-tune. So just so you're aware of something that's coming up, and I have communicated with Allison on that and sent a little bit of a technical update, I would say, for that. So that's a lot going to deal with your IT department. So I just want to make sure that we touched that we did evaluate that, even though it says no, and it was applicable though. Accounting estimates. So within the financial statements, we evaluate, there's 4 accounting estimates: the useful life of your capital assets, your OPEB, your net pension benefits with the Wisconsin Retirement System, and your investments with your employee benefit trust fund. Again, that uncorrected misstatement is at the bottom of page 3. We didn't have any difficulties in performing the audit. There's corrected misstatements in there. Those are those complicated pension and OPEB entries that we prepare. So nothing from an alarming standpoint. We just have to disclose them there. No disagreements with management, and no other significant issues. So the rest of this is kind of a summary of your fund balances, where you're at. I've talked about where your fund balance is, and then the management representation letter is management taking responsibility for the financial statements. That's the district audit. Any questions? This one's shorter. So the charter school obviously is new for this year. Same concept. You don't have this one? That's no problem. I'll get copies sent out.
We'll listen carefully.
Pardon?
We will listen to you carefully.
Okay, awesome. I'll make sure I make a note. Okay, same concepts, the opinion, you'll see, we had a clean, unmodified opinion on the charter school, and that was the Algoma Venture Academy, for the year ended June 30th, 2022. It does have an emphasis of merit matter paragraph in this opinion, that just refers to that the academy is part of the district, so it references that. Again, talks about management's responsibilities and our responsibilities. The charter school at June 30th, 2022 had a grant receivable of $14,600 approximately, and a due to Algoma School District for the receivable that was outstanding for the charter grant. And that's just a timing between the two. A net position is a zero net position because of the subsidy from the district, so it's just a flow through. But the total revenues for the charter school was about $349,000, and obviously then the corresponding expenditures were the same. Preparation of the annual financial report is the only finding that we have, same concept. And then there's an executive summary that just talks about the audit opinion, the internal controls, and that there was no non-compliance. Same concept, no new accounting policies, and no disagreements or issues completing that audit either. A lot of information, but if there's any questions?
You answered mine.
If you have any questions throughout the year, if anything comes up, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to. And I'll get those charter school copies
That's good.
sent out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to work with Amber and her team. They work very hard for us and appreciate all they do, so,
Excellent, thank you.
thank you.
Same can be said, so I enjoy coming to the schools.
Next on the agenda, we have Patrick Robinson from Algoma Area Education Foundation here. Share a little bit about the foundation, some work that they're doing, and a proposal that we would like to bring to the board about a potential position that we would be working with. So I'll turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you, Jesse. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for some time to talk to you about the foundation and hopefully some opportunities to work together with the board and the district on interesting philanthropy, because we were just talking about budget all night, so it seems like a nice segue. So I've been the president of the foundation for about a year, and over the summer months, we took a pause and tried to sort of reflect on our mission and our strategic goals and think about the kind of work we wanted to do as a foundation. I think you all have a copy of what we ended up coming up with as a result of that. And so in short form, the goal is to build upon and expand the scholarship work that's been going on, thankfully, for years with the foundation, the great scholarship work. And also try to think about some other philanthropic ways that we can really support innovation in a lot of different forms within the district moving forward. And so through those conversations, one of our strategic goals was to think about trying to hire a director of philanthropy and innovation to try to really grow the fund sources for projects that would support both scholarships and innovation in the district. The foundation itself doesn't really have the infrastructure or capacity to hire. We'd have to build all that up. If you're not aware, the foundation is a 501c3, and the president of the board position, Barb's position, superintendent position are through the bylaws members of the board of directors as well. So please interject if you have anything to add as I go along. So because we don't have that infrastructure, and because we're really hoping that the philanthropy is both beneficial to the students of the district and efforts in the district overall, the idea that we came up with was the foundation has enough reserves to be able to support sort of, I would call it, an informed gamble for a year of trying to hire a director of philanthropy and innovation that would support some strategic efforts to raise additional scholarship funds and work with the district to identify strategic priority areas to raise funding. As you all know, there's a whole bunch of foundation and other opportunities out there that you can tap into, not just in our community, but in communities across the globe, frankly, but across the United States for sure. And so the idea is to think about, can we grow some resources along the way? The reason it's an informed gamble is anytime you hire one of these philanthropy director positions, you're really looking at trying to find a candidate that can ideally cover their own cost, their salary eventually, plus. So it's that plus. It takes a little while, and as we have to be understanding of that, it would take a little while for that person to hit the ground and be able to develop that portfolio, but we're optimistic that that could happen. many of you have been through a lot of the major fundraising efforts in the district. Obviously, you don't need the foundation to do that. We have evidence just down the hallway that that can happen without it. But there may be other areas where having the foundation as a partner, I think, might be a real benefit, because that separate 501c3 status could, I think, create some other opportunities. In addition to, we're really interested about thinking about how we can use alumni networks to try to create some enhanced scholarship opportunities. We've had some success with that, I think, over the last 5 years, where we have a number of growing named scholarships. The list of scholarships the district offers, I think, is pretty impressive for our size, and I think it could go up, frankly. So all of that is to say that we would be interested in working with the school board to fund a director of philanthropy and innovation for a year that the district would hire. And Jesse and I worked together on the draft position outline I think you all have. And then the board reviewed it and refined it, with the idea that we would fund it, the district would hire it, and then we would reevaluate in a year. Once we had agreement on moving forward, we also would have to develop a memorandum of agreement that the foundation would sign and that a representative of the school district would sign, probably the board president and the superintendent, saying this is how the position works, this is how it relates to the district, this is how it relates to the foundation, because the idea would be that it would be a shared and mutual venture. So in that first year, it would look like trying to work together to figure out what the primary targets would be for that position, what would we actually try to fundraise around that first year. We might start small, and then we can work on that together. And then, again, like I said, we come back and reevaluate after the year was up. Jesse and Barbara, anything you'd like to add about the outline of the idea?
I think the only thing I would like to add, first of all, the Algoma Area Education Foundation, I'm on it because I'm president. I think he referred to that. Jesse's on it because he's the superintendent. Because I've been president for a lot of years, I've been on it a lot of years. And our primary funding for years and years and years and years was just a golf outing. And so we'd make some money at the golf outing, and we'd use it for scholarships. And we, over the years, have developed a nice pot of money. And the board, first of all, the pandemic hit, so we weren't able to do our golf outings, so it was like, let's rethink this whole thing. And there were gonna be some changes on the board for the Algoma Area Education Foundation, and it was like, and there were changes within our district too, in terms of some of what we were doing with Teal, and so it's like, we sort of, we could use some expertise, which none of us have. I mean, none of us are, have that. But we thought, the funds are out there, like Patrick said, school districts everywhere are looking for ways to supplement the public education funds that we get, to be able to do some of the more innovative projects and things like that. So we thought, okay, we have the funds, let's go for it. And then that's sort of how we did it. There are, how many other people are on the board right now? It isn't
4
just
others?
us. Yeah, it was general consensus that the way to move forward with this and really try and get a jump start is by bringing in somebody with the expertise, not trying to figure it all out ourselves and have it be a long drawn out process. Hire somebody, see if we can jumpstart it, get some more funds in. As you read in, some of the materials that, gave, I mean, to 5-year goals, creation of a student innovation grant program, complement current foundation funding sources with new sources, engage in innovative, impactful education-related projects, including those that build upon and engage the community. I mean, all of that obviously is much more expensive than funds that we could get from a golf outing, even if we start doing our golf outing again. So bigger ideas, bigger goals that could impact the entire community, impact the school district, in a bigger way than just giving scholarships, not forgetting about scholarships, we feel strongly, but also talking about expanding the scholarships. We've traditionally just done it for college-bound kids. What about the kids that aren't college-bound? What if they're career-bound, and, you know, can we offer some of those? So, this is what came out of it, so.
It really is a win for our students. I think last year our students received over $60,000 in scholarships, I believe, that had graduated, and so $60,000 doesn't go very far in secondary education anymore, right? We know how much credits cost, how much books cost, housing costs, and so I think this is going to really support all of our students in the long run. So.
Any other questions for Patrick while we have him here?
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, all salaries and benefits is being paid out of the foundation?
Correct.
Okay, and then, do you like interview people and you bring a recommendation to the board? Cause it'd be a district employee, we'd have to approve that. Is that how that process is gonna work?
Correct. We didn't talk about like what kind of search and screen committee we didn't go that far down the path.
But I mean, but
But
that's
that's
basically the
correct.
process.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, it'd be like any other employee.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And the exact supervision and those kinds of decisions would, you know, be all have to be identified in that memorandum. of
That's what I was gonna
understanding.
say. That's why we mentioned that memorandum of agreement, that is that, you know, we wanna make sure that it's a mutually agreeable relationship, so we try to detail those things as much as we can, so that there's no surprises for anyone.
The part-time part, I don't know how that will work. How will that work? I mean, they work 9 months out of the year, they work 6 months out of the year, they take a month off and, you know, go to Timbuktu and then come back and work some more. How's that gonna work?
Yeah, like we talked a lot about that, and it was the balancing between sort of what's reasonable for an informed gamble in terms of spending assets down versus trying to attract a candidate, which is why we actually left it a little open-ended. There
Okay.
was debate among the board of, you know, not overspending, and we've got enough to fund, so like, we could fund a full-time position for a year, but then you're spending down assets that can be used for scholarships, so we're just trying to balance that out. So I think where we landed, and Barb and Jesse, please add in here if you think I mistake this, but is that we're gonna be a little flexible on that as we look through the candidates and go through the interview process. If we had somebody that we all felt like, whoa, this is very intriguing, we have the ability to ramp up that appointment if we want to. If we had somebody who's like, said, I can do 50%, that's no problem, it fits well with my life, here's how it fits, here's what it would look like, and we all were comfortable with that, then we could go that route too.
So this is a discussion item later down on the agenda, number 8 as well, so right now I just wanted Patrick to come and present to the
Yeah.
board and share the information.
Obviously, but just if you have any more questions for Patrick, we're not expecting him to sit through the rest of the
I have a
meeting.
basketball game.
So
Yes.
ask him now, and then we can discuss it a little bit more.
Well, I'm not playing, but my daughter is.
Any other thank you, Patrick.
All right, thank you,
All right,
Patrick.
thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you. And yes, and
All right, and we move on to the Rising Phoenix program. So included in your board packet was an overview of the Rising Phoenix program. And this really ties actually into what we were just talking about with Patrick, because what the Rising Phoenix program is a partnership between public school districts and UWGB. There's currently a few districts in our area doing this program, and one of them is being Two Rivers. And what it is students in public education can receive high school credits as well as dual credit courses through GB. So they would potentially graduate with an Associate's Arts of Science degree, which is up to 60 college credits. And so it takes part during their junior and senior year. By law, districts are required to provide our students up to 18 college credits before they graduate. So we are responsible for paying for up to 18 credits by law. So this would cover that requirement. What it would look like is you can see the cost structure broken down at the bottom. So year one, their junior year, the district would be responsible for the 18 credits, which is about $1,800 in tuition, and another $500 in their books, which would be an estimate. The families would then be responsible for the remaining balance, which would be between $1,200 to $3,300, depending on how many courses, how many credits they want to take. Year two would be their senior year. There would be no cost to the district for that. The full amount would fall upon the families, which would entail about $3,000 to $5,000, which is a significant reduced cost for college credits. So 30 college credits with about $3,000, that's pretty reasonable. We did survey our students, got a pretty good turnout, and this is something our students are very interested in pursuing. And so bringing this forward is just information at this point. We do have this as an action item. I don't have the actual contract from GB. They have not drafted that yet. That should be coming in the coming weeks. But right now, I'm just looking for feedback if this is something we want to continue to pursue. Other districts in our area, Kewanee, Luxembourg, Casco, and Denmark are also looking at this as a potential. They are potentially going to be following the same route that we are as far as the costs for the district and for families. And so this would kind of be a collaboration among all of our districts with GB. So,
The question,
mhm.
if somebody starts in it, do they have to do both years?
They do not. No, they do not.
And if they want to do a lot less credits, is it, I mean, it would just be I guess the prorated down, I guess,
Correct.
in terms of the district would still be responsible for 18 credits, and could that then be over 2 years if they just were doing less credits? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
If there was a situation where the family wasn't able to contribute and then they just took a total of 18. Okay, that's still.
And what I see, I haven't talked to Patrick directly about this, but this may be an area that the foundation could support and through some scholarships for our students for this, so.
Yeah, be a nice new application of some of that.
All right, any other questions about that? Okay, we'll move on to our school security assessment after action reports. Also included in your packet are 2 reports. By law, districts need to perform annual security assessments, protocols that we follow on each building housed in the district. And so you have a report for the elementary school and then one for middle school and high school. Found through the protocol as going through it that there are lots of great things that we're doing in terms of school security already in our district. We have a robust camera system, we have locked entrances, we have key fobs, all of those things. The environment when you walk into the district is very welcoming. Our clericals are there to greet people. And so as you read through this, you'll see that we're in a good shape as far as some security procedures. There are some things that we would like to improve on. This is always an ongoing process as new technology arises, as new protocols are out there. But one of the things we are doing this year that we haven't done in the past is our required drills. So we're doing 7 fire drills, 2 tornado drills, 2 security drills every year. And they're being documented. At the elementary specifically, we are looking at purchasing 10 walkie-talkie radios that will be used throughout the building with any of our special ed teachers possibly, or when students, family, or staff go out for playground duty. So quick, easy communication if an emergency were to come up. Another area that we are looking at is we purchased safety vests for all of our staff members. Bright yellow safety vests. They were thrilled to get them at the elementary school, but it helps identify staff members when they're outside if there's a situation. So not only do students, but also parents that are dropping kids off, they know who to go to in the event of an emergency. So Also wanted to just highlight that we are looking at purchasing, we did purchase some new signage, for our entrances, saying that visitors must check in the main office. No cell phones in locker rooms, no weapons allowed into the buildings, so, those are gonna be going up as we, in the coming weeks here, so.
Good question. No cell phones in the locker rooms. How do you monitor that?
It's a great question.
Is
It's
that
gonna-
like an honor system?
It's honor system, it's gonna rely on other students reporting that,
Okay.
but by having those signs on there, it says that,
It allows
Yeah.
us to.
Okay.
takes us,
have
makes us a
Takes
stance,
out-
yep,
okay.
exactly, so. Any questions as you read through the report?
Yes.
Sounds good.
What about Pathfinder? Did they do one for Pathfinder?
We did not do one for Pathfinder. When we conducted these, Pathfinder was up here at the high school, so we did not have the opportunity to go down there and do an
Okay.
assessment report.
All right.
So you suggested things in terms of things you're gonna, be looking at. I mean, one of them was encouraging the teachers to have their doors shut during instruction and to get.
That's always a
the-
tough one, yeah.
Yeah, and get the, any glass doors with the, what do they call it?
Shatterproof.
Shattered, well, and I think something so you can't see in it either.
One-way glass.
We did that actually up in the art room here at the middle school and high school. We had some window decals installed actually, so if you get a chance to take a walk up there, it looks great. It's a picture of the lighthouse and the beach front, so it's really, really pretty. But we ran into an issue. We thought we'd be able to see out from inside the classroom. You can't. It's just a gray. So I met with our art teacher this afternoon, and we're gonna look at some options on what we can do on the inside of it to make it more appealing. First line of defense with any type of school security is our students. And so teaching our students to speak up, say something when they hear or see something is so important. And that is something Dave and Katie have been stressing to their staff and students tirelessly this year, so we'll continue to do that. All right, the last thing I have to do kind of ties into this, but our SRO update, and this is on the revised agenda, so if you don't have that, that's where it is. But just wanted to provide an update where we're at with our SRO. I did talk to Matt Murphy today, the city administrator, and we are in the process of moving forward. He told me that it was going to the PPP committee today, and it was on the docket for the February 6th Finance Committee, and then hopefully will be adopted by the full city council after that. This has been a work in progress. There was dates thrown out in January and December of that this was gonna be approved by the city council, so I'm hopeful by February 6th, we will have a decision and be able to move forward. From a district standpoint, we're ready to go. We have approved the contract at our board meeting, I think in October, I believe it was. And so we're waiting for the city to get to approve theirs, so.
Is the finance, maybe Midge can answer this for me, the finance committee, is that everybody on the council is on the finance?
Yes.
Okay, so basically if the finance committee okays this, then it's just a matter of approving it then, because there's nobody that you have to convince, because everybody's on that committee.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the finance is always the third Tuesday of the month.
All right, that is all I have.
Cross our fingers that it actually happens this time.
If you remember, the contract is for 3 days a week for SRO.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna move into Katie Survey's elementary principal report. She's not able to be here tonight, due to a loss of a family member and funeral, so, January bright spots. She said the students are back into the swing of things after winter break. The first part of January was part of the semester 1. We have finalized grades and, I think report cards went home with students on Friday the 20th, so last Friday. Moving into semester 2 now, so, the AGR report, or Achievement Gap Reduction, This is a requirement as far as some federal funds that we receive. The district needs to report out on student progress, both at the mid-year and end of the year. And so I'll read what she has for reading and math. She says students are making good progress in the area of reading. Our reading AGR goals look at 2 different assessments. They're using the FastBridge Screener, which is a computer assessment, and the Fontes and Pinnell assessment, which is a one-on-one reading assessment, listening to the kids read. At these grade levels, we see the most progress on the F&P assessments because it assesses students on more specific skills at smaller increments of growth, which is important to do early and for developing readers. And for math, it says huge celebration. Students in all grades K through 3 have significant growth in math from fall to winter and are on track to meet the end of the year AGR goal. This is the largest jump at the mid-year point we have seen in all 4 grade levels. We have made some math curriculum changes in grades 4K through 2, which may be contributed to this increase. If you remember, they did a pilot program with Bridges, a math curriculum resource that they're looking at, and so that seems to be working well. So,
Yeah, that's excellent.
any questions about AGR? All right, and the last thing is state assessments. This is a busy time right now for state assessments, just doing some pre-work. We have the forward exam coming up, pre-ACT secure, and the ACT and the DLM. And what those all are is forward exam is from 3rd grade through, I believe, 10th grade for our students. The pre-ACT is the old ACT suite that our 9th and 10th graders, I believe, took. And then once they become juniors, they take the ACT. And the DLM is the dynamic learning maps, which is the alternative assessment for those students that have specific IEP goals for the curriculum standards that are not part of the normal curriculum. So the testing window for forward exam, pre-ACT, secure, and DLM start on March 20th and runs through April 28th. And then students in the 11th grade will be taking the ACT on March 7th. So, coming quickly. All right, so that's all I have for elementary.
All right, any questions, further comments? We'll keep moving. Middle school, high school principals report. That would be you, Dave.
Yes, I turn that over to Mickey if you don't mind.
I think it's me, Dave. This Dave.
Oh, I'm
There's 2
sorry.
days here, that's all right. So, just a quick report on where we are at with our professional development. At the beginning of the year, when I was thinking about professional development, there's 2 things that I wanted to emphasize. And the first thing was that we have what we need to be successful within our own building. In other words, an asset-based thinking. And the second thing that I wanted to emphasize was that we're all better when we're not siloed, but when we're working together. And for those of us who survived COVID, we understand how that really put us back into silos that I felt as a school that we had worked so hard to get out of. So in order to force that issue a little bit, each teacher was required to either do an observation of their peer or collaboration with one or more peers, and then reflect on that and then bring that information back to me. And what was really exciting for me when I was reading through those reflections was to see first how much the staff appreciate each other and each other's expertise. Also interesting to see what they saw in their peers and what they thought they could apply in their own teaching to improve as educators. So we just completed semester 1 of doing those, and it was enlightening for me. And I think based on the feedback, very helpful for the teachers to get out into each other's classrooms, get out and work with each other, and begin to, I wouldn't say begin, but sort of kindle the collaborative spirit that I think was such a hallmark of our staff prior to COVID. The second thing on my report has to do with what was previously known as scheduling night. based on anecdotal and also collected data, we know that our students choose classes for one main reason, and that is because their friends take it. We want to shift that conversation for our students because we know that as a district, as a school, it's really important for us to prepare our students for their academic and career future. And in order to do that, we've had conversations about what is it that interests you. We try to stay away from the conversation of what do you want to be, because that is not a helpful conversation for a 9th grader or an 8th grader, let's say. But rather having that conversation of what interests you and how do we help move you along that path. So not only did we just rename it, because semantics are one thing, but we also went back and looked at our course descriptions and tried to make those more helpful for students who wanted to make choices based on what the class actually was going to teach them. So kind of moving towards career lanes or at least future lanes so that students can be more informed when they go to fill their schedule instead of going by what their friends are taking. So those are just a couple little things that we've been doing at the high school.
Sounds great. Any other questions for Dave? All right, thank you, Dave. Moving on to Pathfinder
You're welcome.
AVA report.
So, I don't have an item to report on for Pathfinder this month, but I do have a couple things for AVA. On January 6th, we had staff and students from Denmark Viking Academy come to visit us. Denmark Viking Academy is a project-based public charter school in Denmark. They got to walk through our students' open house setup, so they're kind of project showcases, and that gave our students an opportunity to practice their presentations and just share kind of the cool things that they're working on or had worked on throughout the course of the semester. The advisors, their teachers, also had the opportunity to collaborate and share resources, which is always helpful. And then we're planning to also go and visit them in the future to kind of see their space, their students in their natural habitat, and continue to learn with and from them. So we're excited for that.
Abby, how long have they been in charter school?
It's a great question. A lot longer than us.
Okay.
Like, I
They're
know
not
more than
new.
5 years.
Okay.
So, and I know they've had recent turnover in their staff, so that's been kind of like a struggle that they shared, is just having, because it takes a process, or it takes some time to like onboard staff members, and so that's one of the things that they're going through, but I know they've been open for a while.
Okay.
Did they say what was causing that turnover?
No, they didn't go into that. We had about an hour to kind of collaborate with them, so didn't get into the nitty gritty kind of bits, but yeah, I'm not sure. I know they have one of their like leaders has been there for I think 3 years, and then they had a new staff member this year, and he was also there to visit us. So, and then our open house event was the following week, and so January 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. where students got to showcase one of their projects from the first semester. We raffled off student-made products and items as well, which included jewelry, metal garden art, and a printed sweatshirt. And we had a really nice turnout this year. We had over 65 people based on the sign-in sheet we had from a variety of families, staff, and students, and community members. So kind of like a steady flow of people the whole time, which was really great. Students did a great job presenting and showcasing what they did, so it was a good success for this year so far. And then last week, we took our students on an excursion to Chicago, which was a trip that was 2 years in the making. We had planned to go last year, but with COVID, there were certain restrictions that we weren't able to go. So we did make that happen this year. Students got to be part of the planning process. We have student jobs that they had to apply for at the beginning of the school year. So 2 of our students are excursion planners, and so they helped us to kind of contact hotels and communicate and plan things, set the itinerary. So they felt really proud that we were able to carry out the trip this year. While we were in Chicago, we focused on kind of finalizing the 2 themes that we had focused on in the first semester, which were a sense of place and exploration. So students got to explore the art and culture of Chicago, and broaden their perspective of place by experiencing downtown, visiting the Museum of Contemporary Art, and for some of them, trying deep dish pizza was an experience. They also got to kind of broaden their historical understanding of the Holocaust and natural history by visiting the Illinois Holocaust Museum and the Field Museum. The students had some really great reflections from those experiences, notably the Holocaust Museum. I think for some of them, it kind of made it more real than you sometimes can get just by reading or kind of seeing things. So being able to be there and see actual artifacts was really, really cool for them. And hearing their reflections was great. And then students documented their learning while on the trip through journaling, photography, and then video creation. And so some of them are finishing up those projects now, this week. And then lastly, we had a guest speaker on last Friday, Joel Kitchens, and he got to talk to the students about protecting our environment and natural resources at the legislative level. Students also had the opportunity to present to him about some of the projects that they are working on to make a positive environmental impact in Algoma. So our hydroponic unit students that are working on that, aquaponics, and Crescent Beach group all got to kind of share what they're doing and what their vision is for their projects that they're continuing to work on throughout the course of the school year. And he was pretty impressed with their initiative and kind of knowledge on the topics. So it was a really great experience for the students to talk to him and kind of get to know a legislator. So.
And a real important time to let our legislators know what we're doing and why they need to invest money in the public schools.
Yes.
So,
absolutely.
yes, excellent.
That's it.
Questions for Abby?
Yeah, that trip to Chicago, who goes? How do you find, who do you pick? I mean, you draw them up a hat, you get to go, you don't get to go, how does that work?
It's based on students who are like passing, so if they're failing a content area, so we go based off of learning targets, which are kind of like assignments in a traditional setting or in the middle high school setting. So the learning targets equate to their credit. If they don't have a certain number of learning targets completed throughout the course of the semester, they can't go on the trip. So we did have about 4 or 5 students who were unable to go because they didn't complete the expectation for their academics. So it's based on if they're meeting their academic expectations.
So how many kids went on this trip?
31.
So, and how do we chaperone all that?
We had most of our staff members, all of our staff members, so me, our social studies teacher, science teacher, and then Mr. Abel. And then we had 1 volunteer from the community chaperoning, who we partnered with in the past with some of our community projects and community excursions. So we had 5 chaperones.
And I assume they have to somehow incorporate this trip into their curriculum?
Yes, so it was kind of a culminating experience based on the curriculum that we covered throughout the first semester. So we focused on how they feel or how they understand Algoma as a place and how that plays into their sense of belonging in the community. So that was kind of our lens for our social studies and English learning as well as some of the science. So we took students on excursions like for stream monitoring and kind of worked it into the curriculum of what they're covering with the standards. And then exploration, thinking beyond just Algoma and what else exists kind of within the world and the global kind of dynamics. So it was to kind of have them reflect on what else exists in the world versus just Algoma. Some of them have never been out of Algoma or out of the area, the county. So it was a comparison in terms of place, but also an opportunity to explore in greater depth some of the things that we had covered over the course of the first semester.
So do they write papers? Do they, something's gotta get graded, right?
Mm-hmm. You mean like during the trip or as a result of the trip or throughout the first semester?
The whole thing. I mean, I'm trying to understand it. I'm trying to understand it, not just being a field trip to Chicago.
Right, yes. So the whole first semester, they're doing a variety of projects, whether it's writing a paper, going out into the community, like the stream monitoring example, creating products for the community, working with Mr. Abel. There's like a lot of different things that can create a project. Reading a book can be considered like a book study project. So it's a variety of things that culminate into the completion of their learning targets. So they have to complete a certain number of learning targets in all of their core content areas as well as electives in order to receive academic credit. And those standards, those learning targets are based on the Wisconsin state standards, and they're aligned with what's required within the middle high school setting, so they're learning the same kind of content. It just might be through different avenues. Oftentimes it's just a little bit more hands-on or kind of based in the community instead of like within school. That's what we try to do throughout kind of the school year. It's tougher in the winter, but the point of the Chicago trip is to get that kind of broader sense of understanding, and then they're tying it into their curriculum by reflecting back on what they had learned and then capturing their experience through like the video creation, photography collection, or journaling, and then the broader reflection based on the course of the first semester as well.
Okay. So then you're basically evaluating the content of their reflection
Yes.
as part of their grade, which isn't, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds like a wonderful experience. Field Museum, you could spend the whole time there.
Yes, a lot of kids said that, like, that could be the whole trip, is just being at the Field Museum.
Yeah.
I think they only covered like half of it, if that. Yeah.
Yeah, great experience for all those kids. Any other questions for Abby? All right, thank you. We'll move on to Marie, Special Ed Wellness Report.
I was just gonna give a quick little snapshot of where we're at for January 2023. Our special education enrollment is roughly 120 students. I say roughly because even within the last 2 weeks, that number has fluctuated with some students transferring out or some new students qualifying. Of those 120 students, 8 of those students are open enrolled currently. We have 6 initial referrals in place that are in the timeline to be evaluated to qualify or not qualify for special education services. And 60 of those students receive speech and language services, whether it's their primary impairment or a related service. We have 11 special education teachers and currently 2 speech language pathologists. So with all that being said, currently we have a cap on our 2nd grade and 11th grade. So 2nd grade is the class of 2033, 11th grade is the class of 2024, and each of those classes have 12 students that are receiving special education services. We also currently have a cap on our speech and language of no more than 5 open enrolled students. And like I said, we have 60 students receiving speech and language. Moving forward, I met with Jesse and we kind of thought that we'd probably keep a cap on those same grade levels just because they are larger. The average per grade level is about 8 students and those both have 12. However, given that we have additional speech and language support, we were going to remove the speech and language cap. Sorry, I always turn bright red when people look at me. Are there any questions on those current caps?
So I know we're gonna have it as a discussion item, further down in terms of the exact spaces, but I guess I need a little clarification on what the last thing you said. In terms of
Sure.
we have some good support for speech.
Right.
So we're thinking that we would be able to accept them if it was speech only?
Right.
Are there a lot of students that just have speech and not another?
That are open enrolled?
Yeah. I mean, or just in general, I mean, if they need speech, do they often need some of the other services as well? So would that be a tricky thing?
It really depends on the student. Some receive both and
So
some
it
are
could be
speech
sort
language.
of a tricky thing to say.
Right.
allow them for
Previously, we said
speech.
if they received speech and language only, we were not accepting more than 5 open enrolled.
I see.
However, given that previously we only had 1 speech and language pathologist for a very large caseload, and now we have additional speech and language support, we were comfortable removing that cap. If you guys are also comfortable with that. I didn't put this on my agenda item, but our early childhood special education teacher is planning our annual district-wide early childhood screening event, and that is on Thursday, February 2nd, and Friday, February 3rd. We're doing an evening event on that Thursday and that would be for any children with birthdays between September 1st of 2018 and December 31st of 2020 who reside within our district boundaries. And that would just be a screening to identify children who may benefit from community resources available to help in their development. So any children within those age ranges that are not already receiving services or not already enrolled.
What were those dates again, Marie?
Sorry, it's September 1st of 2018 and December 31st of 2020.
And what are the dates of that? February 2nd?
February 2nd
Second and
and
third.
February 3rd.
Evening of the second and daytime during the third.
And you
And
said
there
it
should be
all went
things-
out. I know Lindsay had gotten, you know, first.
It should have gone out in the mail to anybody within those age ranges in the boundaries, but just wanted to put a little plug here as well.
Will those be scheduled, or do you have to call and schedule?
So there is like a Google form that if you receive it in the mail, you can either fill it out by paper or do it online, and that goes to Kaden Shaw, our early childhood special ed teacher, and then based on the availability, she's going to schedule them within some time frames.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Marie? Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Building, Grounds, and Transportation Committee meeting, 1/9 of 23. Dave, are you asking Mick to report on that?
Yeah, I think so.
Prior to today, so.
Okay, we met, January 9th, at Dave's house. We discussed the McKinstry and Myron facility study proposals for a, possibility of, you know, doing a referendum in 2024. We looked at both of them, looked at the costs regarding each one. We decided to go with McKinstry. We could stay with Bayland for someone who would be doing any building and remodeling. We've had so much success with Bayland in the past. They know our district, they know, we're not looking for the Taj Mahal, they know we're very, cost conscious to our taxpayers. So we haven't had any bad, anything, you know, happen with that we were disappointed with them in. So we wanted to stay with Bayland, so McKinstry was the way we went. They came in, I think, maybe slightly lower than Myron anyway, so, that's what we decided to do,
To recommend.
to recommend McKinstry.
Any questions? All right. Policy and Practice Committee meeting met on the 12th. We are a busy little group plowing through those policies, so you got a bunch in your packet. The ones that had no changes you did not get in your packet. I did bring, there were a lot of them that just revision involved just a new name on it or just rewording, but the content didn't change. I guess you all got copies of things. If you have questions, I did bring the ones with me in case somebody did have a question. But I want to ask those of you who aren't on the committee, if in the future, because we are going to be plowing through these, if it is just a name change on the policy or a rearrangement of the paragraphs or whatever, but the content hasn't changed, would the rest of you be comfortable with my just summarizing those instead of you having to have a copy where I could say, the policy of, you know, employment of substitutes had this change, you know, it was just a name change or whatever, so that you guys don't, you know, so only the new ones and the substantial changed ones would be copied for everybody? I mean, those on the committee, we're not having him recopy everything, we just take from, you know, the notes from our going through all of them, so that would be okay? That'd be okay with you? Okay, good, so in the future. So did anybody have any questions? We'll be going, for approval of all these down in action, but. I don't think there was anything super
Significant? No.
significant, no. So, okay. Current COVID statistics.
0.
Oh, that's a number I like. Other items for discussion. Discuss number of regular education spaces available.
I want to ask clarification from Marie real
Yes.
quick, because you had mentioned in your report that you were, is it current second graders that you were looking at?
Yes, the current second grade class, so for next year it would be the third grade class, the class of 2033.
Okay. I put misinformation on the update here. So, originally I had said second and 12th grade, we were looking at closing, just due to large enrollment numbers. After some conversations that I had today, we would only be looking at possibly 3rd grade then for next year for special education. The other grades we'd be able to accommodate for general education. So, and we want to grow our student population, so open enrollment is really important to us. So, at this point, we are not looking to close for any regular education spaces for next year.
Okay. And then the next line, discussion number of special education spaces, the recommendation is 3rd and
And 12th.
12th
Third and
for, anything but speech, or are we?
Correct. So, special education if they're not speech and language only.
Any
Okay, so,
further discussion on that?
yeah, the first, regular education, we close it for incoming grades 3rd next year, or existing 2nd grade this year?
No, regular education.
Regular
we're not
education will be
putting
0.
any restrictions.
Yeah.
It's open, we're not capping.
So what's on here, on your report that I gave you
Mhm.
is incorrect, yeah.
It's incorrect. Okay, I'm just trying to get my,
But the regular education spaces, we aren't restricted, we are open in
Correct.
every
oh,
grade.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've got the numbers here, so, next year for 2nd grade, we'd be at 42 kids right now, which is accommodating, we have 3 first grade teachers. Even with AGR and smaller class sizes as a requirement for that, we're still able to meet that, we can go up to another possibly 18 kids.
Okay, so any additional discussion on the recommendation by Marie or? Okay, discuss Algoma School District Director of Philanthropy and Innovation position. That's the one that would be funded through the, Algoma Area Education Foundation, but be a school district employee.
It worked for both of us, the foundation and the school district. And the foundation is one that's really putting their financial neck out there,
Right.
so. So,
And it's another stepping out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, we feel like there's a lot of untapped resources out there that none of us have the expertise or the time to either find or fill out the appropriate application, for it, with the different grants and that kind of thing, so.
I should have asked him and I didn't, but maybe, would this person be writing any grants?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is a expertise all of its own.
Well, that's it, yeah, it would be a
That
huge
none of
amount of,
us have, so.
a huge amount of it would be
Yeah,
grants.
yeah.
Huge amount of it would be grants, so yes, that's what we decided as a group too, so. All right.
so then this would just be a 1-year deal and see where it goes.
Reevaluate, that's basically how
Mhm.
the,
So,
yeah.
okay, so then say it just, takes off in gangbusters, then do we reevaluate then the following year and say, obviously, all the money, if we're gonna be getting some benefit from that as a district, would we go halves and halves on this, or would the foundation
I don't think
continue
that was
to?
ever an expectation, it was not an initial expectation of the board of the Algoma Area Education Foundation to have any financial responsibility for the school district. The only reason the school district has to hire the person is, as what Patrick said, the board is just a board of a 501c3
Okay, so
foundation.
it's
So
their
we
financial-
need somebody, but the whole purpose of the 501c3 foundation
Right.
is to provide funds that support
Mhm,
the school, so that wouldn't change.
right.
So, yeah, so it would be the financial piece of supporting that position
Is
would
coming from
always be the
Foundation.
foundation. So yes, they're taking all the liability.
It's a win-win situation.
I think so, yeah, that's what we were thinking too. Sort of an exciting idea, you know. Like Ann says, thinking out of the box a little bit. So. All right, moving on to action items. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of December 19th, 2022, the Building Grounds and Transportation Committee meeting of January 9th, 2023, and the Policy and Practice Committee minutes of January 12th, 2023.
Also move.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Ann, seconded by Pat. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright,
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the bills that have been presented to us.
I'll move.
Motion made by Chris, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ann. Questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Can you go
Alright.
back- Can you go back to one I missed, who approved the board meetings? Who approved those two?
Christian
and.
No, Ann and
No,
Pat.
that
The
was,
board, it was
The
that
one
was
before that?
Bill's.
Oh,
Ann
And Pat.
and Pat.
Ann and Pat.
okay. Thank you.
And we all just said aye on the bills, correct? Okay. Motion carries. All right. Listen carefully. I need a motion to approve the Neola policies with no changes. 2461, 2464, 2510, 2521, 2531, 2623, 3111, 3120, 3120.07, 3120.08, 3120.10, 3124, 3130, 3132, 3140, 3161, 3210, 3211, 3213, 3214, 3216, 3242, 3243, 3281, 3310, 3361.01,
Okay, 3362.
60, thank you, see, I'm glad you're paying attention. 3410.01, 3419, 3419.03, 3430, 3430.01, and 3440.
I'll move.
Motion made by Ann, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Pat. Questions or discussion on any of those? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I need
you gotta take it, Chris.
approval of, a motion to approve the revised Neola policies 2522, 2605, 2700.01, 3112, 3120.01, 3120.04, 3120.06, 3121, 3122, 3122.01, 3122.02, 3123, 3125, 3131, 3139, 3160, 3215, 3217, 3220, 3230, 3231, 3340, 3362, 3419.02, 3425, 3431, 3432, and 3531.
So moved.
Motion made by Pat, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chris. Questions or discussion on any of those? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion motion to designate the number of regular education spaces available for the 2023-24 school year. The recommendation was to not have a ceiling. So we are open for it. So I'd need a motion to either follow that advice or have a ceiling on it.
This is for the regular education.
Regular education
So
spaces.
moved.
Alright, so you are making a motion to not have a ceiling on our regular education spaces.
So no cap.
No cap.
I'll second.
Alright, so I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I need a motion to designate the number of special education spaces available for the 23-24 school year. Again, the recommendation from our special ed director and Jesse was that we restrict both third grade and 12th grade for any special education students that require more than speech therapy. Alright, so I need a motion to
I'll
that.
make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
alright, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the Rising Phoenix, I don't know, we don't have the contract.
We have a contract, so
So-
can we table this
I
until?
think, yeah, I
we
was
get the
gonna say, if
contract?
we don't have a contract,
Yeah.
all we could do at this point is a concept, but it's,
Yeah.
we'll just table the whole thing. All right, I need a motion to approve the facility study proposal in the amount of $22,000, as recommended by the, Building and Grounds Committee for McKinstry.
Also move.
Motion made by Mick, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chris. Any further questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. We don't need any modifications of our code. Request for future agenda items.
So on the Phoenix contract, right? That'll go
Yeah.
next one.
Anything else? All right, I need a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85.
Could,
Subsection. Yes, Dave?
could we have an update? Could we have an update, in February or March on where we are with the egg combination with the 3 schools?
Yes, sir, we can do that. All
Yeah.
right,
Thank you.
all right, once again,
I usually take
going to ask for a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85, subsections 1C, E, F, and I, for the purpose of personnel matters, hires, staffing, resignations, and administrator evaluation.
So move.
Motion made by Pat, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ann. Roll call vote, Dave?
Yes?
Chris?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Nick? Pat?
Yes.
And I also say yes.